Welcome everyone to an all-new show, Coach Ben's Authors and Coaches United. We're here with author Maria Carrión, who will be discussing her all-new book titled Fighting All Battles into Success. Let's go ahead and jump right into our very special interview. So, Maria, what inspired you to share your story in Fighting All Battles into Success?
What inspired me to share my story in fighting all battles into success was realizing that there are many women suffering from abuse in their homes. Actually, they are hidden from the world. And I also want to empower parents to educate their children about domestic violence tactics from a young age, arming them with the knowledge to recognize and escape potentially harm situations.
Can you briefly overview the significant challenges you faced and how they shaped your journey?
I faced numerous challenges, including moving from Puerto Rico to New York at the age of 10 without speaking English and enduring emotional, psychological, and physical abuse. Starting at the age of 13 years old. Actually, it was 16 days before my 14th birthday when everything started.
How do you hope your memoir will impact readers out there?
I hope to inspire of resilience, empower victims of abuse, and spark conversations between us, see how can I help them, and also encourage them to read and educate themselves to overcome adversity.
How did you cope with language barriers, traumatic loss, physical abuse that you discussed, and emotional manipulation?
Despite facing insurmountable challenges, including language barriers, traumatic loss, physical abuse, emotional manipulation, I found solace and strength in self help books. Educating myself became my healing process and my growth and my transformation in this wonderful life I live now.
What strategies helped you build resilience and determination?
I learned to remain calm, quiet, and avoiding all types of arguments and contradictions with this covert abuser and just conserve my energy and focus on my goals. Like self-education, I found solace in like reading and educating myself through self-books. The well-being of the future of my children was one main purpose. And these strategies helped me navigate traumatic experiences, including physical abuse, emotional manipulation, language barriers, and traumatic loss.
So, the power of positivity, in other words, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
How did self directed learning shape you?
I gained valuable insight from books. I learned about recognizing covert abusers. Books on physical abuse helped me understand signs and symptoms of coping strategies. And I also explore grief literature, navigating denial, anger, depression, acceptance, and bargaining. And in addition to that, additionally, personal growth books and communication guide me to transform my life and develop communication skills, especially communication skills, because it has been very difficult as a non speaking English person that came from Puerto Rico. I'm still reading and still learning and hope to improve my communication skills as well in the future.
What role did books and knowledge play in your healing process?
I can tell you that and everyone else that books are like my lifesaver. Harry S. Truman, the 33rd president of the United States, quoted that readers are leaders. And I say this quote is 100% truth. Books empower me to recognize abuse and break free from toxic patterns. It helped me rebuild myself and my self-worth. Through self-literature, I gain resilience, I cope with tragedies and other experiences. Education became my healing and growth transformation.
What advice would you give to someone facing similar challenges?
I want them to read self-help books, empower themselves with knowledge, take good care of themselves in all types of way, eating habits, exercise, meditation, whatever it is, set boundaries, encourage and seek supportive help. If you need help, there's many sources out there that can help you in all professional ways.
Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives you'd like to share?
Yes, I am currently working on another book, my second book. It follows my first one, Fighting All Battles into Success. So this will be like a second memoir, and the title will be Fighting All Battles with Fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's, and Hypothyroidism. The subtitle will be The Path to Natural Healing. So that's coming in the next year.
How can readers connect with you or learn more about your work?
They can reach me through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Also, they can go into my website, www.mariacarrion.com, or they may email me with any questions, concerns, or any advice that I can relate and help anyone with. You could email me at carrionmaria619@gmail.com. What I would like to elaborate on domestic violence, because I believe that it's so shadowed under all these crimes that are out there. And I don't think that we are supporting domestic violence as a whole. And I think they should pay more attention, like in social media, articles, radio station. You don't normally hear these things in social media. You hear other stuff. And I think we should pay more attention to domestic violence, especially when we have children and we want to protect them.
You think it's a matter of fear that people don't report the amount of domestic violence that really does exist out there?
Yes, I believe that even the statistics are not correct out there. It is impossible for those statistics to be accurate because, for example, I was being abused by a 21-year-old man, the man I was supposed to marry, but the church was closed, so I still dressed in white. But anyhow, I still ended up moving with this man, and he abused me emotionally and physically, mentally so bad that I almost gave up on life. I thought there was no way out of it. And the reason for that is because I was scared to talk to my family or my friends or anyone, because I was afraid for this person not to only harm me, but to harm those who I love or who are close to me.
In Spain, for example, there's a lot of male to female violence, and also in Mexico, the same thing. And the women are just too afraid to speak up about it, and they end up being murdered or brutally abused physically and also verbally constantly. What's your message to Hispanics out there, either from Spain, Mexico, or the other Hispanic countries? How can you encourage them to, if they're involved in an abusive relationship right now, what would be your advice based on everything that you've written and everything that you preach to friends and family?
I want everyone to know that I personally did not seek help out there, but it is imperative, and I cannot say this more clear, that you need to speak up. You need to speak up and talk to someone before it's too late. I was a lucky one to survive. I was a lucky one that this man went to jail, and I took advantage that he went to jail, and I started reading more, educating myself more. And from a person who was on the welfare system with 4 children, I earned my associate's degree, and later on I had a fascination for psychology. I started educating myself on psychology, and I also have my degree on that, my bachelor's in psychology. But most importantly, they have to seek help out there. They have many domestic violence programs out there, Facebook groups of domestic violence, but seek help other than just books. Don't listen to me and just read books. Seek the help out there. I was just lucky because this man went to jail, and I was eager to have an education and better myself in life.
Did you notice that nowadays, compared to the past couple of decades or so, that people in general have gotten a lot more quiet, that they're too nervous or anxious or afraid to speak their emotions? Have you noticed that within all these different generations?
Yes, and once again, it's because it's shadowed with all the other problems in this world.
As a parent, What would you advise other parents out there who are dealing with their kids they're glued to their electronic devices, they're ignoring the parents? It seems that morals and principles and wisdom, intelligence isn't really being reached to the majority of children out there. There's a lot of happy kids out there who they are knowledgeable, they are respectful and grateful, but I see too many of the younger generation being ungrateful, greedy, selfish, and just downright disrespectful. What's your advice to a struggling parent out there who's trying their best to weather the storm, so to speak, of today's modern times?
I think the best thing they could do is just communicate with their children and let them know at an early age the reality of this world, what's good, what's bad, how important is education, how it is okay to look into social media and play games, but the focus should be on educating your children and sending them through the right path.
Do you have any plans to make a presence on YouTube as far as trying to educate people on what's mostly an entertainment platform?
That is something that is in my bucket list. Right now, my concentration is to educate and have domestic violence awareness and for them to learn through my story what I went through and to see if I can help them out somehow through my story and how to cope with physical and mentally abuse, among other things.
As far as the title of your book, Fighting All Battles into Success, can you list those types of main battles that come to mind? Which battles you're referring to?
Some of the battles was, once again, English barrier. I came from Puerto Rico at the age of 10, knowing no English. That the fact that I was supposed to get married and the church was closed, that played a number in my head. It was very difficult for me to watch a movie or see someone dressed in white. Also, the physical and emotional abuse that actually the father of my 4 kids put me through, overcoming tragic death of my 16-year-old brother who took his life with a gun in front of me. That took a number of me. But I overcame, like I said, I overcame all these tragic things that happened in my life by educating myself.
It's mainly is about domestic violence, the main focus in all of your work, correct?
It is. It is the main focus. I want to also emphasize that some people think that domestic violence just happens in your home, but in fact, no, domestic violence and covert abusers are everywhere. That could be your mother, your father, your boss, your coworker, your friend. Anyone around you can be a covert abuser and abuse you emotionally without you even knowing they're doing that.
Is there any hope for the future as far as for domestic violence, as far as the government doing something about it, or is it just going to be something that is going to be in the hands of the people to take care of personally through education and awareness as you're trying to promote?
I think everyone should be educating themselves on any topic or any problem they're going through. Educate yourself, most of anything. But I really do hope that the government, the system does something about domestic violence, more awareness, domestic violence campaigns, anything out there. I'm really going to try to find out, reaching out to the social media, radio station, news station, and see what can we do as a whole for this. I don't know exactly how I'll go about it, but you can only reach as high as you want to. And I really want to reach out to people who are in need.
Do you feel that people in general these days especially are far too passive about what needs to be talked about? For example, domestic violence is one, but just in general, educational topics, intelligent topics that include, how to become wiser about a certain area. Do you feel that people in general are just turning too much to the funny cat videos on YouTube, for example, and being so passive and growing up thus to become more immature instead of mature as they're supposed to?
You cannot know what you don't study or hear about. So a person who's always, for example, playing video games all the time, they're not going to educate themselves on domestic violence or whatever the case may be, anything that they want to learn, because that's not their focus. You have to want things in life to have them. You have to want to help to be able to reach out to people. The desire comes within.
What would you say to those who say Well, the world's never going to change. So if I try to help one or two people, what does that matter? I might as well not try. What do you tell those people?
I think that once again, it has to be out there more on how to educate yourself. But I advise people never to give up on anything. Anything. There's nothing impossible. Anyone can accomplish what they want, but you gotta want it. You have to want it.
What would you advise people struggling and living single lives all alone? And they say, I pretty much quit in life trying to find love. Do you have any advice for them out there? Because domestic violence is a big cause of bringing someone down to the point where they don't even feel like trying anymore. They give up all hope.
Yes, I advise them to go into YouTube groups, domestic violence support groups, to reach out to any services to better themselves, to help themselves get out of where they at and be better.
How do you feel about the power of being an author or a coach? Do you feel that it's on a similar level to a psychologist and also a lot more affordable option for people out there?
A psychologist will listen to you and will not give you much feedback. I tried to take therapy a long time ago. It didn't work for me. But psychologists out there do help. Every psychologist is different, of course, so it depends on what is it that the person is looking for. But I advise to, yes, to reach out to psychologists or psychiatrists, but I also encourage them to be authors who have valuable information to relate to. I would like to just say one initial tactic that covert abusers use. So that's the first one to look for. And that is the covert abuser will inform you and show you all this vulnerable side of him. He or she will tell you his fears, embarrassment, disappointments. He will also tell you their precious moments, their dreams, their happy memories for success. But all they're doing is gathering all this information and have you open up to them and give them your strengths. What's most important to you, but the most thing they look for is your weaknesses. Because now that they have their weaknesses, they can use that against you. So that is the first sign. And I cannot stress more that please be aware of these things. Nobody shares everything about themselves in one date or two.
What could you tell us, Maria, about people out there? They have a saying that hurt people hurt people. What's your advice to people out there who believe that since they suffered in life, it's time for others to suffer? So the chain of abuse continues. How can we prevent them from reacting that way? Because they've suffered abuse almost all their lives or all their lives. And now they feel like they're so full of rage and hurt. Do you believe that hurt people do hurt people normally? Not everybody, of course, but how can we advise them to reconsider and say to not follow the same steps as their abusers, to not become an abuser themselves as a reaction?
Two wrongs do not make a right. So you're not going to accomplish anything. It's not going to heal anyone. But what's going to heal you is to forgive and move forward and make changes in your life and educate others after you educate yourself. I think that they will find ways in how to cope with their abuse. I just want to stress out that through my book, I want my readers to recognize covert abusive tactics that they use. Through my book, they're going to realize which one of those tactics my abuser was using with me, and see the coping strategies. Even though I don't mention the strategies, they will see the strategies that I utilize during this phase in my life. Also, my book will help them in their personal growth, empower them to transform and seek for healthier relationships.
Your book is more about getting into the mind of the abuser and how to recognize the red flags to spot if you're being abused or not, domestically or in any case, rather. It's more about the strategies on how to deal with those certain scenarios where you recognize abuse is being committed.
Yes, not directly, but through my story.
It's more of explaining how you handled abuse in your life.
Correct, without actually saying this is what I did. Because all through the book, all I talk about is how I wanted to get out of domestic violence, of course. My focus always, I used to love school, so my mom took me out of school. My mom took me out of school in the beginning of my seventh grade. So, in addition to me being physically abused because I wanted this education so bad, not that I know the physical abuse, but like I said before, I I saved my energy to educate myself and at the same time overcome domestic violence.
You did the best with what you had at the time in order to deal with your life's challenges.
Yes.